My friends, we often expect life to be transformed by grand events, as if a single thunderclap of fortune or revelation will remake us in an instant.
Yet, the truth is gentler and far more humbling. Life is shaped not by the occasional storm, but by the steady drops of rain. Every day, whether we recognize it or not, we are making deposits into
the account of our destiny. Most of us wait for some dramatic turning point, some thunderous moment where everything will shift and our lives will take on a completely new direction. Yet the great paradox of life is that destiny is rarely decided in earthquakes or lightning strikes, but in whispers, those quiet moments where no one else notices, but we choose. We are always choosing, and the direction of those choices, however small, begins to carve the map of our future. A kind word spoken when we feel irritated seems so insignificant, but it shapes us into someone more patient. A decision to put away a distraction and read for 10 minutes may not look like much, yet it molds the mind to seek growth instead of ease. A refusal to indulge in bitterness when wronged appears minor, yet it is a choice that shields the soul from corrosion. In such small hidden decisions, our character is sculpted, and character in the end is destiny. Think of a river. Its vastness and depth are not formed in a single downpour, but by countless drops of rain gathering faithfully over time. So too with the soul. We become not what we dream in an instant, but what we repeatedly choose in moments that seem almost too small to matter. Over days, those choices form grooves in our hearts, and in time, those grooves become rivers carrying us either toward freedom or bondage, light or darkness. It is tempting to believe that a single grand gesture will redeem wasted time. We imagine one bold act of courage, one dazzling success, will rewrite our story. But reality is gentler and sterner. One great act cannot undo years of small negligence, just as one day of health cannot erase decades of poor habits. Yet here lies both the warning and the hope. We need not wait for the extraordinary. The ordinary is always within reach, and when lived faithfully, it becomes extraordinary in its effect. Consider the power of daily honesty, to tell the truth even in matters that seem trivial. What harm is there in a small lie? And yet, one small lie repeated becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes a character inclined toward deception. On the other hand, truth spoken consistently, even in the smallest affairs, creates a soul that can be trusted when the weight of truth is greatest. This is why small choices matter. They are never truly small, for they are the seeds of who we will become. Every person you admire, every life you wish to emulate, was built not on a single stroke of brilliance, but on the steady faithfulness of daily choices. The writer who shapes hearts with words only does so because he first chose, thousands of times, to sit in solitude and labor over sentences. The leader who inspires only commands respect because she first chose to discipline her mind, to listen, and to act with integrity when it was inconvenient. Behind every admired life lies a hidden record of small, deliberate choices. And so, when you wake each morning, destiny is not waiting for a far-off day to arrive. It is waiting for you in how you greet the first hour. Will you begin with gratitude or with complaint? Will you guard your thoughts or allow them to wander into despair? Will you take a step toward growth or sink into the ease of habit? These are not trivial matters, they are eternal ones, for the direction of a single day, multiplied by years, becomes the shape of a life. Small choices shape eternal destinies, and the great hope is that no matter what yesterday's choices were, today offers new soil. A single seed planted faithfully, though small, can grow into a tree that offers shade for generations. Never despise the little decisions, for in them lies the architecture of eternity. We often mistake freedom for the absence of restraint. We think to be free means to do whatever we want, whenever we want, without the inconvenience of boundaries or the discomfort of self-control. Yet anyone who has lived even a little knows this kind of freedom is an illusion. To chase every impulse is not liberty but slavery, the slavery of appetite, the tyranny of desire, the endless chase after fleeting pleasures that never satisfy. True freedom is not found in the absence of discipline, but in its presence. Discipline is the hand that steadies the compass, the key that unlocks the door to lasting joy, the guardrail that keeps us from tumbling into the abyss of regret. Consider the musician. To the casual listener, her playing seems effortless, a cascade of beauty flowing from her fingertips. We may think she was simply born with this gift, but the truth is she has practiced for years, hours upon hours, spent with scales, drills, and endless repetition. To the undisciplined, such labor looks like chains, but it is precisely because of those chains that she can now play with such freedom. Discipline did not confine her. It set her free to create beauty, or think of the athlete. His strength, speed, and grace are the result of saying no, when it would have been easier to say yes, no to laziness, no to indulgence, no to giving up when his body screamed for comfort. The sacrifices that once felt restrictive have become the very conditions of his freedom on the field. Without discipline, his body would betray him. With discipline, it obeys him, and he moves with power and confidence. The same is true of the soul. A life without discipline drifts into chaos. Our habits dictate our days whether we choose them or not, and when left unchecked, they bind us with invisible chains. The one who indulges every craving soon discovers he cannot stop, even when he wants to. The one who avoids every challenge learns that fear grows stronger with every retreat. What seemed like freedom? The ability to do as he pleased becomes bondage, a loss of control over his own will. But the one who embraces discipline learns mastery over himself. He is not ruled by appetite, but rules it. He is not driven by fear, but overcomes it. This is the paradox. Discipline is not bondage, but the path to mastery and strength. Discipline is not only about denial, though denial is part of it. It is about ordering life around what matters most. It is the deliberate choice to give up what is lesser in order to gain what is greater. Every no to distraction is a yes to purpose. Every act of self-control is an investment in a future self who is wiser, stronger, and freer. The chains we put on ourselves today, the early mornings, the studied restraint, the patient repetitions, become the wings we fly with tomorrow. Yet discipline must be seen not as grim duty, but as a gift. The farmer who wakes at dawn to tend his fields does not curse the soil or resent the labor, for he knows that without it there will be no harvest. He embraces the rhythm because he trusts the reward. So it is with us. Discipline, when embraced, becomes a friend, teaching us to endure in the present for the sake of joy in the future. Do not despise the small disciplines, rising early to pray, setting aside time to learn, restraining the tongue when anger burns. These acts may feel insignificant, even burdensome, but over time they carve a soul that can withstand storms and shine with strength. To the undisciplined, such practices look like chains. To those who endure, they become wings, for discipline is not the enemy of freedom, it is its very foundation. Without it, we are slaves to chaos. With it, we are free to live fully, to create, to lead, to love without being mastered by our weaknesses. This is the great paradox worth embracing. The path that feels narrow and difficult is the very path that opens into wide spaces. Discipline is not confinement, it is liberation. It is the training of the soul to walk steadily, so that when the hour of testing comes, we do not stumble but stand tall. True freedom is found only in the strength to master oneself, and that strength is born of discipline. We imagine that the extraordinary is born in grand moments, flashes of brilliance, strokes of luck, or dramatic turning points that alter everything in an instant. We look at lives that shine and assume they were lifted by some invisible hand into greatness. Yet if we look closer, the extraordinary is not built on rare fireworks, but on the steady glow of ordinary choices. It is not the mountain top experiences that shape a life, but the quiet, daily steps up the slope. What feels plain today is the soil from which tomorrow's wonders grow. The truth is that greatness hides itself in the mundane. The man who can speak with wisdom before thousands did not wake one morning and find words flowing from his lips like magic. He spent years reading, thinking, and wrestling with truth in the solitude of ordinary days. The woman who seems to radiate peace and strength did not acquire it in a moment of crisis. She built it over countless mornings of prayer, of small sacrifices, of steady faith when no one was watching. What we see as extraordinary is simply the fruit of ordinary seeds tended with patience. We deceive ourselves when we despise small beginnings. We wait for the big break, the chance to prove ourselves in a dazzling way, all the while overlooking the little opportunities placed in front of us each day. A habit of gratitude, a choice to forgive, a willingness to work when it feels tedious. These do not seem extraordinary. Yet over time, they transform us into people capable of bearing greatness without being destroyed by it. For the extraordinary is never an accident. It is the compounded interest of daily faithfulness. Think of the carpenter who labors over a simple table. The sanding, the smoothing, the fitting of each joint may seem dull and repetitive, but the ordinary act of patience in the workshop prepares him to one day craft something magnificent. Without the ordinary, the extraordinary is impossible. Or think of the runner who begins with a single lap around the track. To the casual eye, it is nothing remarkable. Yet that lap, repeated with discipline, becomes the foundation of endurance that will one day carry him to victory in a race that stirs the crowd. The ordinary is not our enemy, it is our tutor. It is in washing the dishes, showing up to work, listening attentively to a friend, and rising again after failure that we learn the character required for greater things. The extraordinary is not waiting at the end of some distant road. It is woven into the very steps we are taking now. The question is not whether life will give us extraordinary opportunities, but whether we will be ready when they come. Readiness is forged in the daily, unseen acts of faithfulness. Perhaps this is why so many miss the extraordinary. It comes disguised as the ordinary. We expect greatness to arrive in dazzling robes, but it slips in dressed as routine. We think we are waiting for some dramatic moment to define us, but in truth, we are being defined each day by the choices we make when no one else is watching. The extraordinary life is simply the ordinary life lived with extraordinary consistency. So let us not despise the small things. The simple act of choosing kindness when it costs us, the habit of showing up even when enthusiasm fades, the practice of discipline when comfort tempts. These are the hidden building blocks of greatness. When compounded over time, they create a foundation so strong that when opportunity knocks, we are not caught unprepared. The ordinary is the path to the extraordinary, because it is the training ground of the soul. Each unnoticed decision, each repeated habit, is forming us into something greater than we can yet imagine. And when the day comes that others marvel at the extraordinary in our lives, we will know the truth. It was always the ordinary, faithfully lived, that carried us there. The world is quick to notice results but slow to notice roots. We admire the tree that stretches high into the sky, its branches filled with fruit, yet we rarely think about the unseen labor of its roots, pushing downward in silence, hidden beneath the soil. In the same way, The transformations that truly matter in our lives rarely begin where others can see them. They begin in the secret places within our thoughts, our quiet habits, and the battles of the heart that no one applauds. It is tempting to live only for the visible. We want progress others can admire, victories that draw praise, achievements that shine under the spotlight. But a life built only on what is public is like a house built on sand, impressive for a moment, fragile in the storm. Real transformation begins in the unseen foundations. It begins in the choices we make when there is no audience to impress. It begins in the silence of early mornings, when we decide what voices will shape us. It begins when temptation whispers, and we choose integrity over indulgence, even though no one will ever know. Think of a sculptor working in his workshop. The crowd only sees the finished masterpiece, polished and displayed. But the true transformation of the stone happened long before, in the hidden hours when he chipped away bit by bit, unseen and uncelebrated. So it is with us. The person who seems strong in public did not gain strength in the public eye. They became strong in the quiet places, when they chose perseverance instead of despair, forgiveness instead of resentment, self-control instead of surrender to weakness. The unseen matters because it is where the heart is tested. Anyone can appear patient when all goes well, but true patience is born when delays grind against our desires in the solitude of waiting. Anyone can seem humble when praised, but true humility is formed when we refuse pride in the privacy of our own thoughts. These inner victories may look invisible, but they prepare us for the visible battles ahead. Transformation that lasts is never sudden. It grows like roots, slow, steady, and often unnoticed. Yet when storms come, it is the hidden strength beneath the surface that keeps us from collapsing. What others call resilience is simply the fruit of countless unseen choices to keep standing when it was easier to fall. This is why we should not despise the quiet seasons of our lives. When it feels as though nothing is changing, when no one is watching, and when progress seems invisible, that is often the very time transformation is happening most deeply. The unseen is not wasted, it is where we are remade, and in time what was once hidden will break into the light, not as a sudden miracle, but as the visible result of long, unseen faithfulness.